Minnesota Vikings are estimated to be around $16 million over the 2022 salary cap. But as we always say, there's always money in the banana stand. Rob Thug Life Brzezinski can make the numbers work. The Vikings can move things around, restructure, get rid of some guys, etc. There will be some money to be players in free agency, especially since the Vikings and Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi do see them competing in 2022, getting after it. And a great way to suture things up would be to fix interior offensive line, because you already got the bookend tackles. I think Darisaw year 2 will be a stud. Brian O'Neill's already one of the best right tackles in the National Football League, but you got to figure out what's going to go on inside. Now, I do think that Ezra at left guard is going to be solid, especially since the Vikings aren't really having a monumental shift in scheme change. So, center, got to figure it out. Right guard, I like Wyatt Davis, but got to have contingency plans, man. That's right. So, yes, the draft, Linderbaum, Kenyon Green, Zion Johnson, etc. But free agency comes first. And here's a bunch of free agents that the Vikings should go after. And, you know, the whole thing, some of these guys are probably going to get $10, $11, $12 million per year, but it's worth it. I mean, that is all. Because you saw, if Joe Burrow had just a scintilla of protection, as opposed to getting sacked 7 times in the Super Bowl, I mean, the Bengals win. The fact that he got sacked 9 times and they go on the road, they still beat the Tennessee Titans. He got rocked at Kansas City and they still beat the Chiefs. And the fact that he got sacked 17,000 times against the Rams, and they were still in it at the end. It's just amazing. If Joe Burrow never gets to another Super Bowl, which is possible because the AFC is freaking loaded, I blame the offensive line forever and ever. But here's a bunch of names that we like, some connections, etc. First, up at the top. So, yes, I admit that I still hold love for draft crushes, because I love James Daniels ahead of the 2018 draft. I would have been fine if they would have taken him at number 30 overall. He fell to the second round to the Bears, but he's my guy, man. I loved him out of Iowa. Versatile. Can play center, both guard spots. He's done that with the Bears with a plum, and he's been great. Plus, he came into the league at age 20. He's only 24. So investing in him, I mean, he'll be, 28? Maybe 27, 28 when he gets to his next contract. It's amazing. So I love the versatility. Also love taking away the division rival's best offensive lineman. Absolutely down for that. And you can bring in Daniels, play center. If you say, all right, so say you bring in Daniels as interior offensive lineman, center or guard, and then Linderbaum is there for you in the draft, and he's the top player on your board. So you put Linderbaum at center, you put Daniels at guard, where he already has a ton of experience. You have Wyatt Davis in reserve. Baby, you got a stew going. That's right. Next up, right guard Brandon Scherff coming out of Washington, 30 years young, coming off the franchise tag. Yes, again, the Hawkeyes don't do many things well, but they create great offensive linemen. And, of course, the Kevin O'Connell connection. Scherff was there in Washington the year that O'Connell was OC, as well as quarterbacks coach for a number of years, plus Kirk Cousins, etc. And I understand that Scherff has injuries, but he can still play. He can still play, man. And if we just get a little bit of injury puck luck, maybe that will also depress his free agency value. Go ahead. Next up, center. So Brian Allen coming over from the Rams, 26. Kevin O'Connell connection, of course. He's a great scheme fit. I think he's a top 5 center in this league. Also stealing a great piece from the Super Bowl champions, weakening them, strengthening you. Always looks good. Speaking of Super Bowl champions, so Ryan Jensen of the Bucs 2 years ago won a ring. He's 30, so getting up there. But the thing about this is not scientific at all. But I feel like looking around at like the Jeff Saturdays and the Alex Macks of the world, I feel like at center, for some reason, you can play pretty long. You can play at 35, 36, no problem. Whereas guard, you don't see too many like old like great guards. And for tackle, I mean, Whitworth's an anomaly. Jason Peters is an anomaly. But I don't know. Like I said, not scientific at all, purely anecdotal. But Ryan Jensen is an absolute stud. Came over from the Ravens, and I would absolutely feel fine picking him up. Ben Jones, another older guy, 32, Tennessee Titans, were veteran and just a guy who was getting after it. And the fact that Tennessee was getting the best out of him, the former Texans center, former Georgia Bulldog, I would absolutely love Ben Jones. Yeah, except, like I said, a little bit older, So maybe the price will be a little bit less than a Ben Jones or a Brian Allen for sure. We'll see. I do think that Brian Allen will set the market for centers. Next up. So you got right guard Austin Corbett, also coming over from the Super Bowl champion Rams. Kevin O'Connell connection, of course, 26. He was a 2018 second-round pick out of Cleveland. And he was a guy, too, where we'll get to Will Hernandez, where when the Vikings took Mike Hughes at 30, I mean, the whole Lamar Jackson revisionist history hasn't come in yet, but it was like, we need to go offensive line. And for me, I wanted James Daniels. I wanted Austin Corbett, the pride of Nevada, where he was a left tackle at Nevada. He's played guard exclusively in the league, and he's great versatility. He's got great athleticism. He'd be great in the outside zone scheme. Only 3 sacks and a 2.8% pressure rate allowed this year would be great. And again, next up, Ethan Posich, another draft crush of mine, where he was coming out of LSU, was perfect for the outside zone scheme, very light on his feet, like 17 feet tall, and also he could play all 5 spots. Now, with the Seahawks, he's played guard. In the last couple of years, he's played center. So you love the versatility there. He's only 26. I wanted him last year in free agency, but he went back to Seattle on a very cheap deal. It's like, for shame, but get after him. Next up, you have center Matt Paradise. Again, going down the whole, hey, the veteran centers just trying to get the last bit out of their career. Matt Paradise signed with Carolina after a bunch of seasons in Denver. Had some crossover with Curtis Modkins, the new running backs coach and run game coordinator. So, connection there. Paradise is a great leader of men. His years in Carolina haven't been as good as Denver, but what can you do? He got paid. It's all good. Next up, center Mason Cole. I want him back. I do. Now, so Cole, the Vikings traded a 6th-round pick to Arizona. He lost the job to Rodney Hudson. Vikings brought him up, and he replaced Garrett Bradbury when Bradbury is hurt, with the Rona, and he played great. Played some right guard as well, and I want him back, not as a guaranteed starter, but certainly as depth, certainly as competition. Would love to have him. Next up, so you got left guard Connor Williams, where this is a bit of a bad beat for Dallas, where Connor Williams, 2018 second-round pick, he hadn't played well for the first 3 years of his career, and then this year he played the best ball of his career. So it's kind of crazy, just in time for free agency. And also, we don't like talk about hashtag sources and all that stuff, but we have it on good authority. So the Cowboys took Connor Williams. I think it was at pick 50. I had it on good authority that if Connor Williams got past the Cowboys at 50, the Vikings were going to go up and go get him, right? But if they did that, they wouldn't have taken Brian O'Neill. So sometimes things just work out. It's good to go there. Next up, left guard, Andrew Norwell. Oh, Connor Williams is probably going to get paid too. Andrew Norwell, again, another guy off of his big contract that just trying to get the last bit out of him. Norwell, Jacksonville Jaguars, formerly of the Carolina Panthers, so he took the 95 expansion team route. But a guy is probably going to be a cap casualty in Jacksonville. Would like to see him just get a little bit left of there. Same thing with Laken Tomlinson, 30 of the Niners, former first-round pick out of Detroit. Has been great in San Francisco for the last 4 or 5 years, something like that. But he's phenomenal. And then also you got Will Hernandez. So I only include Will Hernandez. Will Hernandez has not been good, but he became like a monolith. For Vikings fans, rallying against the Mike Hughes pick, which in hindsight, sure. But it's like, well, at 30, you should take Will Hernandez. But like we said, we preferred James Daniels. We prefer Austin Corbett. We preferred Ethan Posich, etc. I know that's a different draft. But the thing is, if the Vikings would have taken Will Hernandez at 30, they probably don't go back-to-back offensive linemen. So that means that they probably don't take Brian, the real deal O'Neill at 62 in the second round. So again, sometimes things work out the way that they're supposed to work out. Yeah. And the last two, so Nick Martin, I understand. People will be like, Nick Martin, he can't stay healthy, he's undersized, blah, blah, blah. But, former Texans center, I thought that he was solid there for a bunch of years. He's a great scheme fit, hurt this year, but 26 would be dirt cheap. And again, you're signing him not to hand him the job, but to provide competition and depth. So I put guys like Mason Cole and Nick Martin in the sort of the same basket. Just a minimal deal, youngish veteran, competition, nothing guaranteed. There you go. And lastly, I can't quit Brett Jones. I can't, man. So Vikings lost him to Denver. Jumping George Payton was like, gimme. But it's sort of like Martin and Mason Cole, except he's older, right? But Brett Jones, whenever he's been put in the lineup, he did well. And for some reason, every time that they could just shat on Brett Jones, whether it's cutting him and bringing him back so that after week 1, so that his contract wasn't guaranteed, or putting him on the bench after he played great at right guard for a couple of games, it's like the versatility, man. But like I said, signing him, not guaranteeing him a starting job, but just having him in the building as depth and leadership. Yeah, go ahead and get after it. Also, Brett Jones worked in Denver last year with Chris Cooper, as well as the assistant to the regional offensive line coach. So continuity, sure, makes sense. But that's it. That's just a handful. There's a bunch of other great free agents out there, maybe even some tackles that you want to kick inside. Yeah, because we're all about Yankee swap with positions, because that's always worked out, man. But what are your thoughts? Who do you like? Who do you not like in free agency for the Vikings interior offensive line? Let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But until next time, Skol, production value.